Outlaw Law is brought to you by Whitaker and Hamer, attorneys and counselors at law. Your law firm for life.
Welcome back into the Outlaw Lawyers. Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, your hosts, managing partners, Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm. Practicing attorneys right here in North Carolina. We have Cassandra Nicholas, an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer, joining us from the Morehead City office. And speaking of offices, also located in Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay-Varina, and Gastonia. If you've got a legal situation you're facing, you've got questions, you need answers, you can always contact the firm. 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. Leave your contact information, briefly what that call's about, and an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will be in touch. And we can always take those questions by email. Just go to questions@theoutlawlawyer.com. Leave it, and we'll answer it on a future program. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate and sometimes referee. Josh, take it away.
All right. So in this segment, again, the whole show we've kind of dedicated to talking about legal terms, legal documents that are kind of commonplace that most folks might not deal with every day, though. And so we get a lot of questions in our consults every week about these things. And I'd like to bring that to the show. Joseph, I wanted to talk about, again, this is going to be a lot, real estate transactions. A lot of times that's the biggest purchase people make, right? Their house, right? That's an important thing. And here in Wake County, we have a lot of new building going on, right? So we have a lot of builders. And so people are buying houses from builders. And I wanted to talk about just the I call it an offer to purchase and contract, but just the contract between you and the seller of your house. We're kind of thinking of the builder context here, but an offer to purchase and contract has a lot of information in it, kind of comparable to our note discussion from the last segment.
Yeah, man, I just calmed down from that exciting segment. I was hyperventilating through the break.
Sell it, Joe.
I finally got myself under control, and here we go again. So you want to talk about contracts, right? You want to talk about, the offer to purchase. So we see a lot of contracts, right? We see a lot of offer to purchase contracts, and there is a standardized offer to purchase contract that we would generally see, especially when you're just dealing with a sale from an individual to an individual. And it goes through some revisions. It's been prepared by some real fancy attorneys, not us down to earth attorneys. Like to keep it straightforward. We'd be 2 pages in a crayon. But these are a little more complex, and they're standardized, so they don't change very much from person to person. But when you start dealing with builders, especially bigger national builders or folks that do a lot of volume, a lot of times you're not going to see that standard offer to purchase that we're used to seeing in just a traditional person-to-person purchase. You're going to see a custom drafted contract that may contain a lot of the same terminology that you'll see in these contracts from these standard contracts. But the builder contracts are going to be custom drafted. They're going to include custom drafted terminology from that builder's attorney. And a lot of times they're going to be made a good bit more favorable to that builder than if the standard offer to purchase contract's being used. Now, not every builder will do this. What we see with a lot of builders is they'll take that standard contract, they'll execute a standard contract, but then they'll have several pages of addendums that are going to include their specific terms or the things that they're going to change about that standard contract. But then you get some of these builders that are just straight, completely different contracts. So you're dealing with something that's really going to change from builder to builder and situation to situation. And it's something that I don't know that it's practical to have an attorney review that for you, right? Like just in the course of day-to-day business, like maybe so. I guess it depends on how different it is from the standard contract. But you see a lot of different things and there's a lot of variations. So it's hard to speak really in generalities about these builder contracts because they vary so much depending on who that builder is going to be.
Yeah, they can really be all over the board. So like Joe said, there's an offer to purchasing contract that if you're working with a real estate agent, the North Carolina Real Estate Commission has kind of signed off on it. The North Carolina Bar Association has kind of signed off on it because it would be impractical, probably, maybe not, but probably that an attorney gets involved on every real estate transaction in the state to draft a contract. So
it'd be impractical, man.
Maybe not.
Yeah,
maybe
not. I mean, we'll help you with it. But again, you're talking about that's a lot, right? Like it's a lot. And you come down to everything, it costs. Everyone's time is valuable. We as attorneys, to review that contract or to prepare that contract for every single purchase transaction would be a lot, man. But that's part of the reason why you've got a real estate commission that's prepared a standardized form that has undergone the review that they've determined is fair to everybody involved. And so that's why we have the system we have, right?
So that gets used a lot. That's when we're used to seeing. I have my own forms I like to use, but there's these standard forms out there that your real estate agent can use, kind of fill in the blanks, names, purchase price, legal description, things that the North Carolina statutes say an offer to purchase real property has to include. And that's kind of what we see the most. But these builders, like Joe said, especially the national ones, can use their own forms, and it's their house. If you want to buy it, they're going to make you agree to certain terms, and those terms can be all over the board. And they can, one of the big ones I see, just to mention it, one of the big ones I see is when your closing date's going to be and how your closing date can be delayed. We saw all those supply chain issues during the pandemic, so that was a big thing that came up a lot. Builders kind of build into their contract leeway because they don't know if they're going to be able to get lumber on time or your garage door that has to go in. And so closing is kind of a moving target in a builder contract. And I saw a lot of people, those clauses really get tested over the pandemic. So we see that, but you need to know what's in that contract. And if they hand you like an 80-page contract with addendums, it might be worth your time to have an attorney look over that just to see what they can do. And I know I've seen a builder contract where they could just walk away at any time and just refund, whatever you've put in there. It doesn't matter how long you've been waiting for the house or what have you. So we saw a lot of that when prices were going up. We saw those. But anyway, you got to be wary of what's in the contract. All right. So you sign a contract, you go to a closing. If everything works out, a deed gets recorded. And so a deed is, we've talked about this before on the show, general warranty deeds, special warranty deeds, quick claim deeds, estate deeds. There are all kinds of deeds. But a deed will get recorded. It'll transfer title to you. And then my question to Joe and Cassandra is, once that deed's recorded, what happens to the deed in the contract? There's a legal fiction in North Carolina. What happens to them? Anybody?
That was for you. That was for you.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I know. So, I mean.
Was it?
Almost like that Ferris Bueller scene. Bueller.
It's a legal
the deed's
fiction.
The recorded document. So the contract really is no longer in play at that point.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So once the deed's recorded, there's in North Carolina, we call it the doctrine of merger. So once you've accepted the property.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Once you've accepted the property, the deed gets recorded. You're deemed right to the contract merges with the deed. The deed's the last known terms, and so breach becomes a new issue that we won't go into now. But just know that once you've closed and once you're in the property, there's something to be said for latent defects and things that you wouldn't have been able to figure out. You still have avenues to sue a builder or a seller. But anyway, that's the contract and that's the deed. Two separate things until closing, and then they merge, and it kind of changes your what you can do as far as claims against your seller for poor craftsmanship or something like that. But it's good to know that once you close, it's a big deal. That's why you do a final walkthrough. Usually you got to make sure everything's lined up the way you want to, because if something's wrong, you've accepted the property, So I see that happen a lot.
Yeah.
And even accepting it. So you've got the 1-year warranty on workmanship for builders products in North Carolina. However, that doesn't cover anything in the house that has its own independent warranty. Like your stove, your shower door, the specific tile. Like if there are issues with something that has its own warranty, you have to go after that manufacturer.
You know what else it doesn't cover? Is
what?
Purely cosmetic issues, technically. And that's something we see a lot. And that's a thing that we see a lot of folks after they've purchased reaching out about, because they've got something that, again, is a purely cosmetic issue. They are a little confused. They consider that a warranty matter, and they want to handle it that way. Now, practically speaking, a lot of builders, because they're doing business in the area, they understand word of mouth is a thing. They want to do right by the folks they're selling these houses to. a lot of builders are going to help you out with those cosmetic things. They're going to have their own policies to take care of issues like that even though they may not technically be warranted, they want to make those things right for you. They want to keep you happy. And they're going to help you out with that. But there's an approach to that, right? There's a way to go about it. And so like I've seen homeowners approach things like that. They come out of the gate firing, they're angry, they're fired up, they're threatening, as opposed to just approaching it as like, hey man, can you come help me with this thing? I know this may not be a warranted thing. You may not have a legal obligation, but do you mind helping me with it? In my experience, that more friendly approach is going to be far more successful than just immediately being combative.
Similar to when you get pulled over by the police, there's no point in being a jerk.
That's right.
Just be nice, and nice things may happen.
That's right.
You're caught in it. You've already done the contract. I mean, you may have to pay extra.
How often do you see the taking, like, that being completely a jerk to a police officer actually help a situation? What do you think the percentage of that is?
Zero.
Yeah, like I'm going to double down. I'm going to be terrible to this person, and I'm just going to cause as much problems as I can. Strategically, I don't think it's the play.
It's a tough situation to be in. I don't like that either. I don't like when people, we'll meet with some folks who are getting threats from we'll call them the opposing party. Could be an attorney, could be, somebody they've done business with. But the people who are threatening, who you can tell maybe aren't aware of their legal standing, right? We run into a lot of people who are threatening our clients with something, and it's always fun to rebuke that, right? It's always fun to go back. You have no you have no claim here. What are you doing? So I really enjoy setting those people back a little bit and kind of resetting the table.
You're saying you like to legally knock people off of their high horse? Is that what you're saying?
I do. I enjoy that. I think that's probably the best part of
That's the best part of the job.
Yeah. I think that's up there.
When I wake up in the morning to do law.
piping hot, fresh law. Yeah. But anyway, all right, we're up against the break, so we'll leave that there.
All right, the Outlaw Lawyer's more piping hot, fresh law when we come back. Josh Whitaker, Joe Hamer, managing partners, Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm, and practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. Joining us from the Morehead City office is Cassandra Nicholas, also an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer. We have more discussion on the other side.